If you are new to this channel, please subscribe and don't forget to like and comment. Today's first story: my ex-wife, F38, and I, M38, divorced because I was infertile and unwilling to use a sperm donor. How should I tell her that my GF, F24, is pregnant? My ex-wife is a complete girly girl who loves children and always wanted a big family. She is a primary school teacher and was a doula for her sister's births. We started trying when we were both 28 and had been married for 5 years. After 18 months without success, we both got fertility testing. I was found to be infertile. I went through several diagnostic procedures and treatments that, frankly, I would like to forget. I was told the odds of me conceiving naturally were close to zero. We considered IVF, but the specialist said it was not viable. The whole episode took about 5 years from beginning to resignation. I was upset, but my ex-wife was devastated. She was briefly hospitalized for an acute depressive episode in 2015. It did not help that her younger sister had 5 children by that time. My ex-wife wanted to use a sperm donor. I understand that biology isn't everything, but despite counseling and my best efforts at rationalization, I could never moderate the feeling of revulsion at the idea of choosing to raise another man's child. I knew I could never see the child as mine, maybe a stepchild, at best. My sil called that toxic masculinity. Open bracket. So, unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Deal breaker. We divorced in 2017. It was a strange divorce. We both loved and supported each other throughout. We were still living together until about 6 months after the finalization, when my ex still started finding men for my ex-wife to date. I then made myself scarce. We briefly reunited numerous times during the next year and are in each other's wider social circle to this day. As I understand it, she has had no long-term relationships since our divorce, and surprisingly, no children. In mid-2018 I met my current GF. I revealed my infertility early in the relationship. She said she always thought she would have children, but she was young enough that by the time she was ready, maybe they could fix me. I pointed out that this was setting up both of us for future heartache, but I had fallen for her, so I wasn't going to argue. In April this year she missed her period. When the test came back positive, her first reaction was to go into full panic mode and swear she had never cheated on me. I never doubted her, but realized that's what every cheated on partner says. But hey, you can now get a prenatal paternity blood test as early as 7 weeks. Who knew? The baby is mine. We are both delighted. I went to a fertility doctor to see if anything had changed. It hadn't. How did this happen then? His answer: you won the lottery. Part of my problem was that the few sperm I did produce were deformed, so we have undertaken every available prenatal screening. This is also why we have only told 4 other people. But now we have the all clear. I share numerous friends and acquaintances with my ex-wife. We cannot conceal this from her. I know her, and although it has been 2 years since we were close, I know this will devastate her. My GF knows all the history and is totally supportive. She thinks that telling my ex-wife before she finds out is the right thing to do. How should I go about it? Should I contact my ex-wife's sister or mother so they can be there? Maybe write a letter they can deliver. Tell her to her face. Ike. I do not want to cause my ex-wife any more pain than is inevitable. That's the end of first story. If you guys not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Let's start the second one. My 28F estranged husband, M28, wants to meet up for "closure" in exchange for a generous divorce settlement. I met my husband at university and we ended up getting married at 21 after we found out I was pregnant. Both of our families were against it, but we didn't care at the time. When our son was 2, we went on holiday with my in-laws to their family villa. Whilst we were there, our son had an accident when it was just me and him. He didn't make it. I can't put into words what that type of guilt and grief does to a person, and I couldn't bear to be around my husband or his family after. My parents immediately moved me back home with them after the funeral, and I haven't spoken to or seen my husband since. I genuinely think both of our parents were relieved that our sham marriage was finally over. The only person from my husband's family I've been in contact with is my sil. I visit my son's grave on his birthday every year, and my sil helps make sure I don't bump into my husband whilst I'm there, since he also visits on the same day. This year I decided it would be best for us to finally divorce instead of continuing to live in limbo. I asked my sil for his contact information yesterday so that I could file. She asked me why I wanted it, and I told her I planned to make our divorce official. She never replied to me after that. A few hours later, I received a text from an unknown number. After a bit of back and forth, I found out it was my husband, and he wanted to meet up one last time for closure, and he'd guarantee I got a generous divorce settlement in exchange. He also promised to make sure the process was as quick and clean as possible if I agreed to this meeting. I don't have the mental energy or financial resources to go through a messy divorce. Financially, my husband can afford to drag this out a lot longer than me. I don't know if he would do that, but it's been a long time since I've known him. I don't know if a meeting is a good idea, but I feel like I owe him it too. What do I do? TLDR, my husband and I married despite the disapproval of both of our families after we found out I was pregnant. Our son tragically died at 2 years old when it was just the two of us whilst on a family holiday. I couldn't be around my husband or his family after that, and we split up. We've had no contact since, but after his sister informed him I was planning to file for divorce, he reached out and wants to meet up for closure in exchange for a generous divorce settlement and a quick and easy divorce. Edit. A lot of comments were saying I was too vague, so hopefully this info clears things up. After the accident, all my husband wanted to do was talk about what happened. When I told him I couldn't, he started withdrawing. By the time the funeral happened, we were barely speaking to one another. My parents suggested I come home with them temporarily, and when I mentioned it to my husband, he said he thought it was a good idea. So, I went. My parents eventually had me committed after several failed suicide attempts. When I came home, I asked my parents if my husband had tried to contact me, and they said no. I assumed he didn't want to speak to me anymore, so I never reached out. Edit/update. Hi everyone, I've read through most of the comments and I just wanted to let you all know I've agreed to meet up with my husband. I'll try to give him the closure he wants. The best comment for this story. As someone who has had to bury their child too, I completely understand the urge to run. I didn't at the time, but the fallout ultimately led to the demise of our relationship 3 years on. That said, you absolutely should meet with him. Not for the money or an easier divorce, but because you both deserve closure. You loved each other once, and you are forever bonded by your beautiful child. Nothing will ever change that. I know the thought of seeing him after so long is probably daunting, but it might be something that you didn't know how much you needed to do for you, as well as the closure you can give to him. I hope that you've been going to bereavement counseling, and I send you all of the love from my heart. Losing my daughter was the worst thing that has ever happened to me, so I completely empathize with your situation. Good luck.